Professional basketball is a $10 billion global industry. It fills arenas around the world and dominates the cultural conversation. But that entire enterprise was entirely fabricated from scratch in just 13 days by a 31-year-old physical education instructor. In the winter of 1891, James Maysmith was a graduate student at the School for Christian Workers in Springfield, Massachusetts. His supervisor gave him exactly 2 weeks to invent an indoor sport to keep a rowdy group of students occupied between football and baseball seasons. He had to work with the basic tools he could find lying around. He nailed 2 half-bushel peach baskets to the lower rail of the gymnasium's elevated running track, 10 feet above the floor. He wrote out 13 rules on 2 sheets of paper, split his 18 students into 2 teams, and tossed them a soccer ball. Coming up with a functional sport out of thin air in less than 2 weeks sounds like a historical accident. But in this specific location, it was the expected output. Springfield was an environment engineered to solve complex problems. You can see the fingerprints of this city sitting in almost every modern American living room. The words we use are defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, first published here in 1847. The games we play, from croquet to the game of life to Twister, were produced by the local Milton Bradley Company. The visual language of our childhood was drafted here. A local brewery owner's son, Theodore Geisel, grew up on Howard Street before building a literary empire under the name Dr. Seuss. And long before Detroit claimed the motor age, the very first successful gas-powered automobile in America rolled down these exact streets in 1893. So how did a single, modestly sized New England town produce the engines of American industry, the rules of its recreation, and the vocabulary of its language, only to fade from our national memory? To understand the culture of the city, you have to look up the hill. In 1794, George Washington's new federal government needed a reliable stockpile of weapons, so they expanded a storage arsenal into a sprawling 90-acre national manufacturing base, the Springfield Armory. Early muskets were handcrafted by individual blacksmiths. If a trigger broke on the battlefield, you needed a blacksmith to forge a custom replacement. The military demanded a better system. They pushed to break weapon construction down into distinct, uniform pieces that could be swapped out. That required extreme precision. In 1819, an engineer named Thomas Blanchard developed a specialized lathe for the armory. A friction wheel traced a master pattern, and a cutting wheel perfectly mimicked those exact movements to carve an identical wooden rifle stock. It completely removed manual hand carving from the equation. With identical components rolling out in bulk, products could be assembled rapidly and flawlessly without relying on individual artisans. This military mandate essentially served as an enormous taxpayer-funded research and development lab. Machine shops opened up along the river to supply the armory. Mechanics learned their highly specialized trades on government time and then set up their own operations in the surrounding neighborhoods. The city soon possessed a deep, localized talent pool of precision mechanics capable of building absolutely anything. That's why Charles and Frank Duryea were able to manufacture their motor wagon here, going on to win America's first motor car race in 1895. The local reputation for exact engineering was so pronounced that when Rolls-Royce decided to open its very first American manufacturing facility in 1921, they bypassed the major industrial hubs and set up shop right here in Springfield. Even Henry Ford himself traveled to the armory. He walked the floors, studied the division of labor, and took copious notes. Ford absorbed the grammar of industrial management pioneered in Western Massachusetts and took it back to Detroit, scaling those techniques to build an automotive empire. This was an entire community organized around solving mechanical problems through iteration and design. When you live in a city obsessed with assembling pieces into a greater whole, that mindset bleeds out. It creates a culture where a publisher invents a flat-bottom paper bag machine, a board game maker patents airplane landing gear parts, and a gym teacher engineers a new sport out of a peach basket. But creating the blueprint for mass production is very different from monopolizing it. As the 20th century progressed, larger cities with more capital and deeper infrastructure adapted Springfield's methods and simply outscaled them. The local economy steadily deteriorated. The federal government officially closed the Springfield Armory in 1968. Between 1950 and 1987, fully half of the manufacturing facilities in the city shut their doors permanently. The vast network of tool shops, foundries, and assembly lines that once employed tens of thousands of skilled workers sat abandoned. The city of Springfield had successfully taught the rest of the country how to build things faster and cheaper, and once the lesson was learned, the teacher was discarded. Today, Springfield is a complicated place to read. More than 1 in 4 residents lives below the poverty line, and a $500 million casino now stands as one of the major downtown employers. Yet the physical space still functions as a sprawling, walkable museum. Just a mile south of the gym where James Naismith nailed up his peach baskets, the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame draws visitors from all over the world. The physical goods forged here eventually rusted or became obsolete, but the byproducts of that mechanical culture, the rules of play, the structure of our language, the foundation of modern logistics, those compounded over generations. Detroit took the credit for the motor age, and Silicon Valley claims the digital one. But if you strip away the layers of modern American industry and trace the engineering back to its source, the structural framework points straight back to the machine shops of the Connecticut River Valley.